Hello, welcome to this video. Today I am going to be doing an in-depth look at some lighting techniques in Dreams. So for this I am going to use a sphere to demonstrate the different kinds of lighting. Well, the first thing I'll explain is that right away there is already lighting in Dreams. So if you look at the scene, it has a global lighting by default. And if we want to adjust this kind of global light, there is a gadget under cameras and lighting where it's the sun and sky. So the sun and sky is already set to the Dreams default, and that is exactly the same kind of setting that we have here. So if you kind of move this around, it adjusts the kind of scenery. You can also move the sky angle by holding R2 on the kind of bigger sphere here, and adjusts like the kind of the sky. And there are a lot of settings in here where you can adjust and tweak stuff. So you can see shadows on the ground there. You can adjust the shadow detail. So if you hover over any of these sliders, it will give you an explanation on what it does. So increasing the value makes sunlight shadows work over a larger area, but gives less detail near the camera, and vice versa. I increase it and it becomes much more soft, and then I decrease it, it becomes sharp. And if you don't want any shadows, you can turn off the shadows. The objects themselves, you can also turn off the shadows individually. So you can turn off the sky, you can turn up the sky, you can increase the fog range, or decrease it to 0 so that it becomes really foggy. And there's a lot of things you can adjust in the sun and sky gadget alone. And, just have a play around with it. It's like heaps of combinations you can do, which can pretty much achieve like the mood and feel of something straight off the bat. Can also increase the sky. The sun, the size of the sun, to something big or something small. If you don't want the sun there, you can turn it off. I think there's also, you can also set the time. So to set the time, you need a time and date gadget, and you can go with like local time or something. And if you go with the local time, the sun will always be in that position based on the local time and date. Like, I've never really played around with it, but it does have that kind of feature where it works with the time and date gadget. I've just never really experimented with it myself. So yeah, that's kind of like the sun and sky gadget. The objects themselves, they have kind of a really subtle bounce effect to it. So if I delete, so you can kind of see a little bit of ambient occlusion being simulated onto the sphere there. So if it's close to something, there's a little bit of an ambient occlusion happening. So if you delete it, you can see like the light is more spread out. Something else with the objects themselves, there is a glow that you can do, and this can also act as a light source, and it also affects other objects around it. But if you don't want it to affect other objects, you just go emit light from glow, never, and it just makes the objects glow without it touching the other objects. You can kind of also see there is a bloom effect and also a lens flare effect, and this is how light is being received to the camera. And to adjust that, there's a gadget called the gradient effects, and under the screen effects, you can turn down the bloom so that you get a flat color. That's if you want to do like 2D kind of stuff. And you can also turn down the lens flare so that it doesn't have that ring, so you can kind of see like the kind of lens being simulated there. So there's a bloom effect, you can turn that down so that it's sharp. So we'll keep the bloom effects off for now. So if I emit a glow from the light, you can see without the bloom, this is what the lighting is actually doing to the environment. Yeah, that's what the object can do. It can also act as a light source. The equivalent to that is using a diffuse light. So this is pretty much like having the sphere, but the sphere is kind of invisible. You can achieve the same kind of effect if you go always glow or always emit the light and then turn off the visibility for like the object. And it's pretty much the same thing, except it's not using the diffuse lighting, it's using an object as a light source. But you know, the diffuse lighting is pretty much the same thing, except you can control more on how far like the light spreads, and also move the position of the diffuse lighting to different areas. So with diffuse lighting, you can simulate like bounce of light if you wanted to. Then we have the kind of the spotlight, and with spotlights, you have things like textures to it. So you can use images to project like different types of lighting. You can make it softer or sharp. You can spread it out more. You can change the distance, so then it can just touch it a little bit. You can change the color, and you can change the brightness of it. You can change the hue as well. And with the light gadget, if you place it at really specific kind of angles, you can achieve different kinds of gradients on the object, and vice versa. If you move the object around the light, you can get different shading effects on the object. And to kind of tweak it, you can adjust the settings here to kind of tweak how it kind of shades onto the object. So yeah, that's what you can do with the lighting. So if you scale down the light gadget, it can get rid of some parts where you don't want it to shade. And you can be very specific with the type of shading that you want. So to do like the equivalent thing here, this is a different kind of lighting technique. It's kind of baked lighting. So if you select the spray paint, you can actually spray paint in lighting. So this is something called baked lighting. Like if the light sources or the light gadget isn't really doing what you want it to do, you can also really specifically paint in the light that you kind of want. So it kind of simulates the kind of lighting that you're trying to go for. You know, spray painting stuff can also enhance lighting. So if I spray paint it here, like maybe it's not bright enough or something, you can kind of combine and kind of create an illusion of what you kind of want the lighting to do a bit more. What you can do as well, Dreams has a sticker mode in the text gadget or the text displayer. So if you go into the text displayer, go in scene and then sticker mode and increase the sticker depth out of space in the text so that something is there. Go auto fit and then move this around. You can also get like a cartoon kind of lighting, like a kind of toon shade, I guess, form of lighting. Like I've never really did much with this, but this I guess can also count as a lighting technique depending on what kind of style you're going for. Sticker mode is also another thing to keep in mind when it comes to lighting. So right now you can see like the sticker is affecting the ground, but if you only want it to affect the object, all you need to do is scope the sticker in the object as a group. So then if you go out of it, it only affects the object. And vice versa, if you want it to have like a snowy ground or something, you can group text displayer to what the ground is, and now it won't affect like the object on top, it will only affect the ground. So those are the different ways that you can play with light. There's also another way I forgot. So if you hover an object over the top here and then go always cast shadows and then hide the visibility, you can also use invisible shapes as a shading kind of technique, which is kind of like the opposite of using light gadgets to shade. So there's like the actual light gadget you can use to create the kind of bright shade, but then you can use invisible objects as like an anti kind of shading system. So, you know, keep that in mind. But then again, you can also spray paint in like shadowy areas if you use a soft blend, and this can also be used in a way to control lighting as well. So yeah, that is pretty much all there is to it, to lighting in Dreams. And if you practice each one, you can achieve any kind of lighting scenario in Dreams if you combine all of the techniques in a certain kind of way. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.